I am the happiest woman in the entire neighborhood. My mother-in-law treats me like her own daughter, my husband cherishes me like a treasure, and my father-in-law even buys me all my favorite snacks in bulk. When I gave birth to 16-pound twins, I was covered in stretch marks and became incontinent to the point of smelling bad all over, yet they never looked down on me. For the first time, I, who grew up in an orphanage, felt the warmth of a family. So, when the child turned 3 months old, I left with a smile. It is said that after death, hearing is the last sense to fade. Had expected to hear my in-laws and husband wailing heartbrokenly over my departure, but instead, I heard something I could hardly believe. Husband, ah, that ugly thing is finally dead. Those stretch marks all over her body made me want to vomit. Mother-in-law, exactly, the urine leakage makes her smell so foul all over. I can hardly breathe when I'm near her. Father-in-law, even so, we've gained 2 grandsons. Our son won't have to worry about his future care. Husband, Mom, Dad, now you won't stop me from being with Lin Feng anymore, right? It's been so long since I've seen him, I'm almost dying of misery. Lin Feng, isn't that the doctor who treated me? What does Xiao Qingming mean by this? Father-in-law, go on, you little rascal, I'm going to find your Uncle Wang too, so he can see that he has a successor. Wait, what on earth is going on? Uncle Wang, isn't he that old bachelor who lives across from us? How could my child be his successor? I was so overwhelmed that I wanted to jump up and confront them, but my soul was trapped inside my body, and no matter how hard I tried, it was useless. Perhaps heaven heard my frustration, because when I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I went to the hospital for my follow-up appointment. 1. Xin, don't be nervous. No matter what the test results are, don't be afraid, we will always be your support. Mom, you're really getting more and more biased, only caring about your daughter-in-law and forgetting your own son. Hey, I am biased. Xin is beautiful and sensible. What can you, a scoundrel, compare to her? Get out of the way. The voices of my mother-in-law and husband echoed in my ears, one loving and warm, the other cheerful and sunny, completely different from the disdain and contempt I had just heard. I jolted awake from my daze. Looking around, it wasn't the stark white walls of a hospital, but the warm, clean living room of my home, with the rabbit-shaped clock on the walls still ticking away. Without a second thought, I sprang up from the sofa and rushed toward the bedroom. I tore off the dress I was wearing, and as I looked at my beautiful body in the mirror, tears began to flow uncontrollably. My stomach, thighs, and buttocks no longer had stretch marks like snake skin, and there was no smell of urine on my body. When walking, I no longer felt the sensation of air entering because my lower body couldn't close properly. At this moment, I clearly felt that I had truly been reborn. Xin, what's wrong with you? My mother-in-law followed me in, looking at me with concern in her eyes, probably not understanding why I was suddenly acting so strangely. I turned to look at her, a flash of hatred in my eyes. In my past life, she made me, who grew up in an orphanage, feel the warmth of a mother, so I respected and loved her, repaid her with tenfold sincerity, and almost obeyed every word she said. If I hadn't heard her words of contempt and disgust toward me after death, I would have believed until the end that she truly treated me as her own daughter. Perhaps my gaze frightened her, her pupils contracted, and she squinted at me suspiciously. I quickly lowered my head, pulled up the skirt I had taken off, and secretly pinched my thigh. It's nothing, Mom, I'm just afraid that if something is really wrong with my body, it will disappoint you. I've been married to my husband for a year, and we've never used contraception, but I still haven't been able to get pregnant. In my previous life, Dr. Lin said that my fallopian tubes were damaged and I couldn't conceive, and I was filled with immense self-blame and guilt. Seeing the hopeful look in my in-laws' eyes every day as they longed for a grandchild, I took the initiative to suggest IVF, but thinking of their expressions before I died, I couldn't help but wonder whether my infertility was actually real. My mother-in-law let out a sigh, her gaze softening again as she stepped forward, gently stroking my hair and shaking her head to comfort me, saying, "My dear daughter-in-law, didn't I tell you to relax? What are you still worrying about? A good family like ours would never look down on our daughter-in-law." She then called out to the living room, "All right, stop fussing with your clothes and come comfort your wife. Don't let her overthink things. You, as her husband, this is the time you should be stepping up. How can you be so inconsiderate? Listen, how heartwarming these words are. As an orphan who grew up without the love of a family, how could I not be moved after hearing them? For a girl from a normal family, this would be considered the best choice for a mother-in-law, right? However, the stark contrast in their attitudes toward me before and after my death made me realize that the good in-laws and husband I once thought I had were all illusions, even though I was reborn too quickly to understand why they acted that way. I know that not exposing them now is the best way to protect myself, too. I looked at my husband walking toward me, quickly adjusted my mindset, and smiled as I said, "I'm fine, I'm just a bit anxious because we've been married for a year and still don't have a child." Xin, there's no need to be anxious about this. No matter what, I will never give up on you. Xiao Qingming stood in front of me and spoke very seriously. I sneered inwardly. I never felt this way before, but now his words sound so awkward. He hasn't even taken me to the hospital for a checkup yet, but his words make it sound like he already knows there's something wrong with my body. Perhaps in my past life, it was exactly like this. Because of his overt and covert subconscious brainwashing, when I realized there was something wrong with my body, I didn't have a single doubt. It's just that his words wishing for my early death still echo in my ears. And now, hearing him say these things again, everything feels so calculated. I forced a smile at the corner of my mouth, didn't respond to him, and instead said, "My appointment with the doctor is almost here. I need to change clothes first. You and Mom should go out for now." I noticed his brow furrow almost imperceptibly, but he's still left with my mother-in-law. I slammed the door shut, then quickly opened it a crack. Unsurprisingly, the two of them were talking about me behind my back. My husband said, "What's the point of changing? She's just being dramatic. It's not like anyone's going to see her." Mother-in-law, alright, you better watch your attitude. After all this effort, don't let things go wrong because of you. If you and Lin Feng can't be together peacefully in the end, don't blame me. Husband, alright, I get it. I clenched my fists, listening to their conversation, and suddenly remembered a post I had seen on Zaya Hongshu. A vague understanding began to dawn on me. I quickly changed my clothes, eager to go to the hospital and confirm my suspicions. 3. The male doctor before me, dressed in a white coat with a handsome and refined face, spoke the same words as in my previous life. "Your current condition involves fallopian tube damage, making natural conception almost impossible." As always, I looked at him with a sorrowful expression, as if unable to accept such a result. "Doctor, are you sure? But my menstrual cycle is normal, and I don't have any discomfort like lower abdominal pain. How could my fallopian tubes be damaged?" His expression instantly darkened because of my questioning. "Madam, all my judgments are based on your examination results. If you don't believe me, you can go see another doctor." Seeing him get angry, Xiao Qingming quickly apologized to him. "Oh, Dr. Lin, please don't misunderstand. She just can't accept that there's something wrong with her, so she asked that way. Please calm down." Then he turned to me and said, Xin, you go get the medicine first, and I'll talk to Dr. Lin about the rest." "Okay, be good." His tone was gentle, clearly playing the role of a good husband. In my past life, I listened to him and went out, and he spent nearly half an hour inside with this doctor before coming out. In this life, I will do the same, but some things will ultimately be different. I picked up my bag and walked out, looking at the door that clicked shut, and took a deep breath. Such a strange action. Why didn't I notice it in my previous life? No matter what, there's no need to lock the door from the inside. I glanced at the bag in my hand, curled the corner of my lips, and walked toward the medication dispensing hall. This hospital is the best private hospital in the city, renowned for its excellent technology and service. Almost all affluent families in the city come here for medical treatment. Although Xiao Qingming's family is not poor, they are not particularly wealthy either. Coming here for medical treatment is considered quite a luxury. In the past, I thought they valued me so much that they were willing to spend a fortune to have me treated here, but now it seems that was not the case at all. It had only been a little over 10 minutes since I picked up the medicine. In my previous life, at this time, I called Xiao Qingming, and he told me the doctor was still giving instructions, asking me to wait in the lobby on the first floor. Now, as I look at the missing phone and wallet in my bag, I don't hesitate and head upstairs. For looking at the still tightly closed office door, I pressed my ear against it but couldn't hear a single sound. The soundproofing was truly excellent. I raised my hand and knocked, but there was no response from inside. I tried turning the doorknob, but it was still locked. Just as I was about to knock again, the man's voice finally came from inside. "Who is it?" "Dr. Lin, I'm Pei Xian, the patient who came to see you earlier. Is my husband still here?" "Wait a moment. I'll open the door for you." His voice was not as clear and bright as before. Instead, it carried an indescribable hoarseness. At that moment, I still didn't understand why he had changed like this. It wasn't until the office door was opened that I realized Xiao Qingming was the same, and because he wasn't wearing a mask, I could clearly see the suspicious blush on his face. On top of that, his white shirt had become crumpled, and his breath carried a slight panting that I was familiar with. Xin, why did you come up again? You could have just waited for me on the first floor. Dr. Lin is about to finish giving me instructions. Xiao Qingming looked at me, his expression somewhat displeased. I didn't mind. Instead, I rushed forward and hugged him, ignoring his attempt to step back, and snuggled in his arms, acting coquettishly. Seeing the male doctor's face instantly darken, I felt a sense of satisfaction. I then forced out a smile that was uglier than crying, pouted, and complained, "Husband, the latest model of the fruit phone you bought for me is missing. It was your gift for our first wedding anniversary. What should we do now?" "Gone. Don't cry, don't cry. I'll make a call for you." Xiao Qingming quickly pulled me away, creating some distance between us, all the while stealing glances at the male doctor. A familiar ringtone sounded from behind him. He let out a surprised, "Huh," and turned to look. My phone and wallet were under the examination bed. How did they end up there? The male doctor also looked at the phone under the bed. I suddenly let out a gasp, turned to Xiao Qingming, and said coquettishly, "I remember now, you were the one holding my phone just now. How did you manage to drop it on the floor?" Xiao Qingming glanced at the male doctor, whose expression had turned cold again, and chuckled twice without doubting my words. "It's all my fault, all my fault. Let's not disturb Dr. Lin any longer. We should leave quickly." He walked over, picked up my phone, and pulled me away. I looked at the inexplicable liquid on the examination bed, gripped my phone, and followed him out. Halfway there, I secretly sent a message to a friend, asking her to call me immediately. When we reached the parking area, she didn't let me down. The call came right on time. "Do I have to work overtime now? Can't it wait until tomorrow?" "All right, I understand." I stopped in my tracks and looked at Xiao Qingming walking ahead of me. "Honey, my colleague just told me there's a major flaw in the proposal I worked on last week, and I need to go back to the company immediately. I can't go home with you." "Really?" Xiao Qingming didn't show concern for me or offer to take me there. Instead, a flicker of delight flashed in his eyes. "Then you should hurry and go. Don't let the boss criticize you." 5. I rode in his car out of the parking lot, then switched to a taxi. Looking back, sure enough, Xiao Qingming had returned to the hospital. I gripped the bag in my hand and asked the driver to take me to a hotel not far away. After checking into the room, I eagerly took out the phone from my bag, turned on the recording function, and fast-forwarded to the part after I left the doctor's office. "Baby, I've missed you so much. It's been a whole week since we last saw each other." It was Xiao Qingming, who eagerly embraced the male doctor. With a wife as beautiful as a flower, would you still remember me?" After a long while, the male doctor, panting, pinched his throat and coquettishly uttered these words. "Darling, you know, she's just our breeding tool, to be discarded after use. Why are you, little thing, getting jealous?" The male doctor punched him and whined. "I only took her as a patient today just to see you. So what? Can't I even be jealous? You're clearly my husband, but now you're legitimately with her. How could I not be jealous?" Xiao Qingming quickly comforted her, his doting tone completely different from how he usually treated me. "All right, baby, just endure it for one more year. After she gives birth, we can be together openly. By then, no gossip will hurt you, and we'll have security for our retirement. Today, we finally get to see each other. Let's not talk about her. Baby, I've missed you so much." I clutched my phone, turned off the nauseating voices, and could no longer hold back as I rushed to the bathroom to vomit. My inner suspicions were confirmed. My loving husband, who was so affectionate with me, was truly a shit-stirrer. At that moment, all the things that had felt off in my previous life flooded into my mind. No wonder his family insisted on holding 3 days of feasts in both the city and our hometown. I thought it was their way of showing how much they valued me, but now it seems it was just to declare that Xiao Qingming was a normal man. No wonder he often couldn't get aroused with me. I used to think I wasn't attractive enough, but it turns out he was simply a peach splitter. It turns out that everything was a lie. I was merely a tool for their family to cover up their shame. They disregarded my health, giving me endless supplements during my pregnancy, which eventually caused me to gain nearly 200 pounds, covered in stretch marks, and the baby grew into a macrosomic infant. My dear mother-in-law often talked about how natural childbirth was supposedly so much better for the child. I treated her like my own mother, thinking she wouldn't harm me, so despite the doctor's advice against a natural birth, I insisted on it. In the end, I nearly lost my life, requiring 3 large episiotomies to deliver the baby, but the consequence of this was that my lower body could never close properly, with severe damage to the urethra, directly leading to urinary incontinence. What was even more serious was that most of my uterus prolapsed outside my body, and in the end, I lost my life due to infection. Looking back now, none of these things seem reasonable. They cloaked themselves in the guise of loving me while doing things that harmed me. I broke down in uncontrollable sobs, no longer wanting to suppress my painful emotions. Having grown up in an orphanage, I thought I had finally found a home as an adult, but what awaited me was a tomb of death. It's all my fault for being too foolish and naive. Someone like me, who can only love themselves, who would ever truly love me, I thought pessimistically, but alarm bells rang loudly in my mind. Heaven gave me a chance at rebirth, not to wallow in self-pity here. I have been striving to live for the past 24 years, getting into a prestigious university, not to end up like this. I need to save myself. I can't let myself fall into such despair. After crying enough, I quickly stood up to strategize. They have brought me to such a miserable state, I cannot simply accept my fate. 6. First, I called a younger brother from my orphanage and asked him to help me purchase some equipment that can only be obtained on the black market. He is an electronics expert, so these things are a piece of cake for him. The Xiao Qingming family thought I was an orphan girl, so they targeted me as their victim. Little did they know, when I was in a relationship, I only told him half of the story. The other half I never mentioned. Children like us, who grew up in orphanages, stick together the most. After all, if we don't draw warmth from each other, we would truly freeze to death. They just don't usually show off or keep in touch often, but whenever any of us needs help, everyone will do their utmost to assist. This is the bond we formed from relying on each other since childhood. 7. After leaving the hotel, I went to the largest top-tier hospital in the city to get a blood test. The results showed that I was not infected with HIV, and I breathed a huge sigh of relief. People like Xiao Qingming, who are troublemakers, are most likely to contract such diseases. Although I didn't get it in my previous life, I couldn't be sure I wouldn't in this one. Seeing this report finally put my mind at ease. Later, I went for another checkup, and the results showed that my fallopian tubes were perfectly fine, with no issues at all. I looked at the 2 completely different reports and sneered. Someone who stirs up trouble, and a doctor at that. I'll make sure you can never practice medicine again. I also called my older sister, who is many years my senior, and told her everything that had happened. She is a journalist and knows all about these dirty matters. After hearing me out, she directly scolded me. Pei Xin, are you out of your mind? What did I tell you when I went to the hospital before? Protect yourself, protect yourself. Your brain must have been kicked by a donkey to let such a disgusting family bully you like this. Listening to her scolding, I didn't feel the slightest bit sad. Instead, I felt it was full of sincerity, much more comforting than the nice words the Xiao family had said. Sis, I was wrong. I'll never let love cloud my judgment again. Please help me. All right. Stop playing the victim here. The most important thing for you right now is to divorce that scumbag. Leave the hospital matter to me. I'll make sure to turn their world upside down. 8. 3 days later, I didn't get home until 9 in the evening after working overtime. As I walked, I kept watching Xiao Qingming's video with that man, and suddenly I noticed the mother-in-law, whom all the wives in my neighborhood envied, coming out of the building late at night. Her sneaky behavior made me suspicious. I quickly hid and observed her secretly, only to see her heading toward a very secluded corner of the neighborhood. I didn't know what she was going to do, so I quietly followed her, only to see her feeding many ham sausages to the stray cats in the neighborhood. I felt a bit angry inside. She could be so kind to these stray cats, so why did she have to harm me? My uncontrollable hatred was about to burst forth, and I no longer wanted to look at her. I was about to walk away when I suddenly heard the sound of a knife piercing flesh. My heart tightened, and I quickly turned to look, only to see that all the kittens that had been happily devouring the ham sausage just moments ago were now lying on the ground. My mother-in-law was holding a knife, stabbing them one by one, while muttering something under her breath. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her twisted expression made it clear that something was wrong with her. I stared in disbelief, frozen in place, until a faint, weak cry from a cat that wasn't quite dead yet snapped me out of my daze. Once I regained my senses, I fought back my fear. Trembling as I quietly took out my phone and recorded the scene, for a long while, I didn't dare to breathe freely until she left with a black bag. This home is truly filled with abnormalities everywhere. I don't know why she's like this, but I suspect something must have triggered her. Otherwise, She wouldn't kill these stray cats for no reason. I quickly opened my phone to check the home surveillance footage. There was nothing unusual in the surveillance footage, except that my father-in-law said he was going next door. Then, after he left, my mother-in-law became gloomy. First, she grabbed a cushion from the sofa and slammed it down several times, then she silently roared at the TV, visibly starting to go mad. Finally, she took out a large bag of sausages from behind the sofa, grabbed a few huge black plastic bags, and walked out of the house. Watching this video, my heart was about to leap out of my chest. What on earth did I do in my past life? There are so many abnormal things in this family. Why have I never noticed them before? No, perhaps I did notice, but back then, I was immersed in the illusions they created for me, unwilling to think deeply or shatter that false happiness. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and scenes from my past life flashed through my mind, finally settling on the moment of my death. A complete plan slowly unfolded in my heart. 9. The next morning, I ate breakfast as usual. Acting as if nothing had happened, the door at home was knocked on. It was the neighbor from downstairs, holding their little treasure in their arms. Auntie Zhang, what's this about? I looked at her, puzzled, as she placed the 3-year-old little treasure into my mother-in-law's arms. Auntie Zhang chuckled and said, I'm asking your mom to watch my little treasure for the morning. I have a new dance rehearsal at noon and won't have much free time. But my mother, as a good daughter-in-law, of course I had to decline on behalf of my mother-in-law at this moment. But before I could even finish a sentence, Aunt Zhang interrupted me. Your mother already agreed to it yesterday. Nowadays, neighbors as kind-hearted as her are rare. I'm really so grateful to her. My mother-in-law also smiled and said, oh, I love children the most. It's just a shame I don't have a grandson right now. If I did, I'd hold him all day long and never let go. Definitely not like you, complaining every day about how tiring it is to take care of a child. As she spoke, she gave me a meaningful glance. That one look made it clear to me, she was subtly hinting at me. In my previous life, after learning I couldn't conceive naturally, I took the initiative to suggest IVF. In the end, after enduring the pain of ovulation, the agony of egg retrieval, the heartbreak of 3 failed transfers, and endless psychological pressure, I finally gave birth to those twins after receiving over 300 heparin injections to maintain the pregnancy. During this time, she brainwashed me every day about how great natural birth is, how wonderful breastfeeding is, and how eating and sleeping more would help the child grow tall. In the end, I gained weight, got stretch marks all over my body, and could no longer recognize my former self. At that moment, I listened to her hints but didn't respond. Instead, I smiled, picked up my bag, and got ready to go to work. I walked out of the house, pretending to take the elevator, and, as expected, overheard a conversation between 2 elderly women. Inside, what's wrong with your daughter-in-law? If she can't have children herself, why doesn't she suggest doing IVF? If you ask me, it's just that you all spoil her too much. Qingming is good-looking and has a good job. He could just divorce her and find someone else. Why stick with a hen that doesn't lay eggs? Aunt Zhang's voice, as she gave her opinions, was so loud it could be heard upstairs, but my mother-in-law just sighed, perfectly playing the role of the good mother-in-law. How can we do this? She was already an orphan, pitiful and unwanted since childhood. If our family abandons her too, she would be even more pitiful. Oh dear, silly girl, how can you be so kind-hearted? I could never do that, Aunt Zhang exclaimed, patting her thigh in admiration. No wonder you're the best mother-in-law in our neighborhood, with such a kind heart. If your daughter-in-law ever dares to argue with you, we won't stand for it. I'm not afraid of her arguing with me, I'm just worried she won't agree to IVF, leaving our family without an heir. Sister, don't sigh anymore, leave this matter to me. I'll have the sisters from the dance team stand up for you. When we see her, we'll speak up. I don't believe she won't take the initiative to suggest IVF. Is that really okay? The mother-in-law's voice was hesitant. What's wrong with that? You're just too indulgent with her. Sometimes you need to assert your authority as a mother-in-law, Aunt Zhang said with righteous conviction. All right, it's settled then. Wait for my good news. I'll leave my son at your place for now. I listened to Aunt Zhang's footsteps as she walked to the door, quickly hid in the stairwell, and waited until the elevator closed before slowly making my way downstairs. Want to do good deeds? She'd have to be lucky enough to see it. I took out a wet wipe to clean the oil off my hands and smiled. 10. Just got off work in the evening, and Xiao Qingming called me, hearing the voice of the man I hadn't seen for 3 days. I raised an eyebrow. What mood is he in to call me? Isn't he living outside with his little lover, still lying to me about being on a business trip? If I hadn't installed a camera in the car, I really wouldn't have known he could stir up so much trouble." Xiao Qingming's voice came through the phone. "Xin, you're off work now, right?" "Yeah, what's up?" "Well, Uncle Wang broke his leg and was taken to the hospital today. Do you think you could go back to his place and get his medical insurance card? We were in such a hurry to get to the hospital that we forgot to bring it. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Dad and Uncle Wang are really close, right? Why don't you ask Dad to get it?" Sigh. "Dad fell too. It's not as serious as Uncle Wang's injury, but he can't walk either." I couldn't help but cheer inwardly. What an unexpected delight, really. How did that happen? How did both of them fall? All right, I understand. I'll go home right away to get the things. By the way, I don't have the key to Uncle Wang's house. How am I supposed to get in? Xiao Qingming coughed on the other end, sounding a bit uneasy. "Well, Dad has it. You can ask him for it. I didn't ask why I should ask my father-in-law for it. After all, he and this Uncle Wang are so close they could share a pair of pants. It's no surprise he has the key to his house. Besides, when Uncle Wang fell, my father-in-law, the dutiful son, even went to take care of him personally." I smiled and hailed a taxi at the company entrance. Eager to fly home and watch the drama unfold. 11. Back home, I saw my father-in-law sitting alone in the living room and greeted him with a few words of concern. "Dad, you're injured, so you should drink less. It's not good for your health. This is the sausage Mom bought yesterday. It's delicious. Have some to help sober you up." "All right, my good daughter-in-law. Qingming told you to deliver something to your Uncle Wang, right? You should go now." My father-in-law handed me the key to Uncle Wang's house across the street, urging me to leave quickly. I followed his instructions, took the key, and went next door. Looking at the house with the same layout as the one across the street, I retrieved a small device from behind the television. I had placed it there a few days ago under the pretense of delivering cold dishes to this Uncle Wang, and the payoff was indeed substantial. Father-in-law is still going strong, but I wonder if after all these years of being suppressed by Uncle Wang, he's had any incontinence issues. I took the health insurance card I found and hurried off to the hospital. This is my alibi, and I need to do my best to deliver it to Uncle Wang. At the hospital, I watched Xiao Qingming being more attentive than he would be to his own father and blinked. Now that I look at him, my dear husband really does resemble this Uncle Wang. Could it be that my father-in-law and Uncle Wang look like a married couple, which is why my dear husband resembles him? I was puzzled in my heart, but I wasn't foolish enough to ask out loud. I checked the time. About an hour had passed when my husband's phone suddenly rang. "Hello, what did you say?" My husband's hand, which was holding a bowl for Uncle Wang, instantly dropped to the ground. I was startled and quickly asked, "What's wrong, honey?" Xiao Qingming trembled as he looked at me, his eyes instantly turning red. Dad is dead." "What?" I looked at him in shock, exclaiming, "How could he just die out of nowhere?" Uncle Wang also sprang up from the bed in shock, his hands trembling as he reached out to pull Deng Qingming. "Qingming, what did you say? Who did you say died?" Xiao Qingming slumped onto the stool, muttering to himself, my dad is dead." "Nonsense, I don't believe it. He came to the hospital to see me during the day. How could he be dead by night?" Uncle Wang tried to get out of bed as he spoke, but his leg was injured, and he tumbled to the floor, his face scraping against the bed frame. Instantly covered in blood, Xiao Qingming was still in a daze, but the other people in the ward had already called the nurse in. Seeing Xiao Qingming like this, I directly slapped him twice. Qingming, wake up, don't be too sad, the family matters still need you to take charge." Xiao Qingming was snapped back to reality by my 2 slaps. Seeing Uncle Wang covered in blood, he couldn't care anymore and got up to run outside. 12. I followed him out, and by the time we got home, the area was already cordoned off. The police stopped Xiao Qingming from disturbing the scene and then explained everything. It turned out that Aunt Zhang from downstairs had come looking for my mother-in-law. Since my mother-in-law wasn't home, she started talking to my father-in-law, but just a short while later, my father-in-law suddenly collapsed, convulsing all over, and then stopped breathing. She was so frightened that she called 120. However, when the ambulance arrived, they immediately diagnosed that my father-in-law had already passed away, so they reported it to the police. Upon hearing the police's explanation, Xiao Qingming turned to look at Aunt Zhang, who was trembling with fear, and rushed forward as if to hit her. "Damn it, you killed my dad, didn't you, you old flirt? What were you doing at my house so late at night?" Aunt Zhang is also quite feisty, well known in the neighborhood, and almost no one dares to provoke her. Otherwise, my mother-in-law wouldn't have asked her to confront me. She was certain I couldn't handle Aunt Zhang, given how timid and quiet I usually am. I'm no match for her at all. Sure enough, as soon as Aunt Zhang heard Xiao Qingming slandering her like that, she immediately refused to take it. Lying down, slapping her thigh, she stood right up. You little brat, do you think I have nothing better to do than to seduce an old man? If it weren't for your mother asking me to talk to your wife, do you think I'd come to your house in the middle of the night? Xiao Qingming, being tall and strong, was not afraid of an elderly woman at all. He directly spat at her. You can't even come up with a believable lie. What could Pei Xinxin possibly have that you'd want to talk about? She's known throughout the neighborhood as a good daughter-in-law. Meanwhile, you started a dance team and are constantly flirting with old men. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Thanks to my mother-in-law for setting such a good example, in her effort to build up her own image, she inadvertently gave me a good reputation too. Xiao Qingming continued his tirade. You must have your eyes on my dad, right? That's why you took advantage of us not being home to seduce him and try to get your hands on his money. Aunt Zhang was so enraged by these slanders that she completely ignored the police's attempts to stop her, picked up a plate from the table, and smashed it into Xiao Qingming's face. Bullshit. Do you think your father is some kind of catch? I wouldn't even look at him. It's your wife who's the infertile hen. Your mother asked me to come and hint that she should take the initiative to do IVF. That's the only reason I came. Otherwise, why would I bother stepping into your stinking house? By the way, where's your mother? Why isn't she here? Get her out here and have her prove it. I'm in this mess all because of her. Where the hell has she gone? As soon as she said that, everyone understood. Yes. Where is the key person? Why haven't we seen her? All this time, 13, the police quickly dispatched personnel to search for Xiao Qingming's mother with all their might. Xiao Qingming and I sat nearby, answering the police's questions. It wasn't until half an hour later that the old lady holding the large black plastic bag was found. She desperately protected the plastic bag in her arms, not letting anyone touch it. The police asked her where she had been. She only said she had gone for a walk downstairs and hadn't gone anywhere. When asked what was in the plastic bag, she remained silent. It wasn't until the police forcefully took it from her that the contents of the bag were revealed. As soon as the bag was opened, a foul, bloody smell spread, and everyone at the scene changed their expressions. Only Aunt Zhang excitedly shouted, "Oh my God, what is this? This woman is a cat-torturing killer. Officer, you see, this old man's wife is a pervert. I reasonably suspect that she killed him." Nonsense, I didn't kill him, you're talking crap. Upon hearing this, the mother-in-law immediately became unwilling to accept it, as she truly hadn't killed anyone. If this accusation were pinned on her, she would surely face the death penalty. If you didn't kill it, did my mom do it? A woman with a strong, resonant voice walked in from outside. Aunt Zhang's daughter handed her phone to the police officer. Officer, look, this video was just sent to our group chat. Even though it's blurred, you can clearly see that the person in it is this Aunt Song. Aunt Song is my mother-in-law. She never expected that someone had recorded her abusing the cat. She lunged forward to snatch the phone but was firmly restrained by two police officers. The police officer asked, "Who posted this video?" Aunt Zhang's daughter shook her head. "I don't know, this resident just joined the group a few days ago, and I don't recognize them." The police immediately sent someone to negotiate with the property management and obtain detailed information about the person who recorded the video. Shortly after, the person was brought in. The person who arrived was a man who looked very unremarkable, the kind you wouldn't notice in a crowd. The police asked him, "When did you record this video?" The man whispered in response, "I recorded one yesterday and another one today." Police, "Why did you go to that place?" Man, "That place is quite secluded. You know, men all have their own little quirks. I feel more in the mood when I'm there." As he spoke, his tone grew indignant. "Ugh, what rotten luck, I finally found such a great spot, only to run into that creepy old lady. She ruined my sanctuary, and I'm going to expose her." The police questioned him thoroughly, but seeing he had nothing more to say, they eventually let him go. Now all the evidence pointed to the old woman, but she kept shouting that she was wronged, insisting she hadn't killed anyone, yet no one listened to her, because the police had already discovered the most crucial piece of evidence. Sausage. 14. Surveillance footage was retrieved one by one, from the mother-in-law buying sausage at the supermarket to her purchasing rat poison. In the end, the police concluded that it was the mother-in-law who committed negligent homicide. She admitted that she had indeed bought sausage and poison, but she denied giving the prepared poisoned sausage to her father-in-law to eat. Moreover, Only the father-in-law's fingerprints were found on the plate containing the sausages, leading to the final conclusion that he had mistakenly consumed the poisonous sausages made by his wife. The mother-in-law was sentenced to 7 years in prison, and in the end, she broke down, crying and cursing in the courtroom. "You old bastard, you deserve to die, you've ruined my life. I, a beautiful young woman, followed you, only to find out you're a gay man, deceiving me into marriage, trapping me here for life, unable to leave or die. You forced me to have children, and when I refused, you beat me so badly that I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. Karma, this is all your karma. You managed to find the sausage I hid so well. You deserve it, you absolutely deserve it. You let that Wang Mingda sleep." Mom, before she could finish, she was interrupted by Xiao Qingming, who was seated in the audience gallery, with tears in her eyes. The mother-in-law turned to look at Deng Qingming, but in the end, she didn't utter those final words. I watched my mother-in-law walk away, then glanced at Xiao Qingming beside me and raised an eyebrow. "Don't panic, Xiao Qingming, you're next." 15. Xiao Qingming and I returned home, and he was in a slump for a long time. People in the neighborhood pointed fingers at us, and Deng Qingming was preparing to move away. "It's just that Uncle Wang next door is still lying in bed. He had a stroke because of his father-in-law's death and is now paralyzed, needing constant care." Xiao Qingming repeatedly urged me to resign and go home to take care of Uncle Wang, but I refused every time. Finally, he said, "Xin, you don't have to quit your job, let's have a child. Now that I have no family left, I want a child who shares my blood." I looked at him quietly, silently took out my phone, and sent a message to my journalist sister. Then, I turned to Xiao Qingming and nodded in agreement to his request. That night, for the first time, he held me while sleeping, curling up in my arms as if seeking warmth. I gently stroked his hair, thinking back to 2 years ago when he pursued me openly at the company. Just like a male lead in a romantic drama, he sent flowers every day without fail, bought gifts from time to time, and in the end, I was moved and agreed to be with him. At that time, I secretly felt fortunate. Although I wasn't particularly beautiful, I couldn't resist the fact that the guy who liked me was so handsome. I thought if we ever got married, our children would surely be very good-looking. I was filled with hope and anticipation for life, but I never expected that it was all a deception. From start to finish, he wasn't interested in me as a person. He was drawn to my identity as an orphan, thinking that I have no parents. Even if I die in the end, no one will seek justice for me. Why was I so foolish back then, moved by just a few bouquets of flowers and a few boxes of snacks? But I clearly remember, when the journalist's sister came back to the orphanage to visit us, she told us, she said that girls should never be moved by small favors from boys, because those are the cheapest things. Those snacks, those bouquets, I could buy them myself. There's no need to get them through a guy's hands. These are all just distractions. These little favors can never be used as a measure of whether a guy is worth entrusting your life to. This is a trap that many girls nowadays easily fall into, and she reminds us to always keep it in mind. But I, this fool, still jumped right into that trap. 16. On the weekend, Xiao Qingming happily took me to the hospital, but before he could reach Lin Feng's office, the police escorted Lin Feng out. Xiao Qingming was stunned and immediately tried to intervene. "What are you doing? Why are you arresting him? He's a doctor. Are you sure you haven't made a mistake?" Seeing him obstructing law enforcement, the police pinned him to the ground. "We have ample evidence. How could we arrest the wrong person? If you interfere with our law enforcement again, we'll take you in as well." Someone nearby spoke up to persuade him. "Young man, don't be fooled by this doctor. He makes dirty money and has already been fired by the hospital." What do you mean? He doesn't lack money at all. What dirty money could he be making?" Xiao Qingming instinctively retorted. The elderly man, he argued with, snorted coldly, picked up his phone, and shoved it right in his face. "Look, it's trending on social media. He deceived that young girl into thinking her fallopian tubes were damaged and she couldn't get pregnant, then made her undergo IVF. IVF is so expensive. To make money, he's stopped acting like a human. He may look decent, but he's worse than a dog." "Enough, shut up, he's not like that at all." Seeing Xiao Qingming's frantic state, the old man rolled his eyes, snatched his phone back, and walked away. Such a fool, he wouldn't bother arguing with him. It would be a waste of life. Xiao Qingming had only just read halfway through when his phone was suddenly snatched away, leaving him flustered and furious as he searched through his pockets trying to find his own phone. I handed the phone to him. "Stop looking, it's right here." "Oh, okay." He was like an addict, greedily reading every word on the screen. and finally, he saw my name, Pei Xinshin, Pei Xinshin. He looked up at me. Xinshin, isn't this your name? This report looks very familiar to me too. How is it exactly the same as your report? I smiled at him and said, because that was me, honey, you don't know. But that unscrupulous doctor actually said my fallopian tubes were damaged, even though I'm clearly in good health. I pulled out a stack of reports from my bag. Look, these are the checkups I had at 5 top-tier hospitals. They all show that I'm perfectly healthy, only that Dr. Lin said there was something wrong with me. Who else should I sue if not him? Xiao Qingming fell silent, his face turned pale and then flushed, holding my test reports as he looked at me, his smile uglier than a grimace. Xinshin, there must be some misunderstanding. Could you consider not suing Dr. Lin? Let's resolve this privately. Okay, honey. Oh my, how rare it is to hear the word wife from Deng Qingming for the first time in 2 lifetimes. It's just a shame that I no longer care for it. 17. I looked at him and shook my head firmly. He immediately flew into a rage, pointing at me and shouting, "You wretched woman, haven't you always acted so kind? Why are you unwilling to let someone go now? I knew you were no good. Sneaking off behind my back to get checked. What exactly is your intention?" I looked at his ferocious face and curled my lips into a smile. "The intention to send you straight to hell. What did you say?" Deng Qingming glared at me viciously, like a sinister venomous snake. I wasn't afraid of him in the slightest. I took out a new phone and played a video right in front of him. It showed him and that doctor named Lin Feng in our car. "Honey, when exactly is she going to do the IVF? The longer she delays, the later we can be together." "I can hardly wait any longer." Lin Feng clung to Deng Qingming like a water snake, more womanly than a woman. Panting sounds soon came from inside, though their conversation didn't stop. Xiao Qingming said, "Don't worry, baby, it's just a matter of time. She just hasn't made up her mind yet, but she'll definitely bring it up eventually, even if she doesn't take the initiative to mention it. My mom can't wait any longer and is already thinking of ways to pressure her. Then we can let her die from a uterine infection during her postpartum confinement, so we can be together every day, just like my dad and Uncle Wang. You just need to prepare your own countless descendants, and when the time comes, we'll implant them into her body along with mine. That way, our babies will be true blood brothers. Unlike me, I can only rely on Uncle Xiao to raise me, serving as a loyal bond between him and Uncle Wang. My mom is still stuck between them, and it just feels awkward no matter how you look at it. In the future, we won't have to go through that. You'll have children, and I'll have children too. Now let me check if you've saved up enough of your countless descendants." What followed was a disgusting scene. I found it too revolting to watch, so I immediately turned off my phone. Xiao Qingming glared at me with reddened eyes, as if he were about to spew venom and kill me the next second. "You knew all along," he said in a low voice, as if laced with the cruelest poison in the world. I laughed. "Of course I know, otherwise, I'd be treated as a tool for bearing children, only to end up dying a miserable death. I wouldn't want to be the fool in that scenario. Oh, by the way, you probably don't know this yet, but your father didn't slice that plate of sausages himself." I looked at him with a smile, sweeping my gaze over him with the most contemptuous expression. "And as for your biological father, that was also my doing. This is actually for the best. If he had died like your father Deng, it would have been too easy for him." "Why do this? Why?" Deng Qingming growled, his eyes growing increasingly bloodshot. I looked at him coldly and said, "It's simply a case of giving someone a taste of their own medicine. You could have spared an innocent person like me, but for your own selfish interests, you dragged me into your hell. This is your retribution. Your mother could have stopped all of this. After all, she was also a victim, but for so many years, she never fought back. Instead, she enabled the abuse. She deserves to die even more. It's just a shame for those kittens, who paid the price for her twisted mind over the years." Xiao Qingming, after hearing what I said, didn't reflect on himself at all. Instead, he grew even more frenzied. Of course, someone as despicable, shameless, and selfish as him would never reflect on himself, but that's exactly what I want. 18. You deserve to die. You're the one who truly deserves to die. Xiao Qingming cursed viciously, rushing over to strangle me. I was prepared, turning my head and running outside, not forgetting to throw a knife on the way so that Xiao Qingming wouldn't be unarmed. As I ran, I shouted, "Help, help, someone is trying to kill me, help." People on the road, seeing Deng Qingming so frantic, all stepped aside and did not intervene. I can understand. After all, in such a situation, stepping forward would be like seeking death. I ran all the way toward the hospital entrance. and everyone I encountered stepped aside, watching the police about to leave. I silently apologized to my brother. I was the one who dragged my feet. He must have been quite troubled by this delay. I stopped overthinking and ran towards the police car, shouting. Seeing us like this, the police had no intention of leaving and instead aimed their weapons at Deng Qingming. However, Xiao Qingming was now in a state of self-forgetfulness, solely focused on taking my life. So he would kill anyone who stood in his way, even a Buddha. One of the police officers, seeing him like this, knew he couldn't be subdued and directly fired a shot at him. Xiao Qingming collapsed to the ground with a thud. 19. Both Xiao Qingming and I were taken to the police station. At that moment, he regained his senses, knelt down, and begged for my forgiveness. Without even glancing at him, I directly showed the video in my hand to the police. The police fell silent upon hearing and seeing what was in the video, because such a disgusting and cruel incident was something they had never encountered before. The incident caused a huge uproar. After all, a man chasing his wife with a knife was shocking in itself, and since there were many people on the road at the time, videos from various angles quickly spread across the internet. The police couldn't even attempt to handle it as a domestic dispute. Plus, I posted that video from the car online. Although the visuals were blurred, the audio was crystal clear. Public opinion erupted, and everyone was heartbroken by what I had been through. This wasn't just a case of marriage fraud, it was an attempt on my life. A marriage certificate alone couldn't cover it up. Given the widespread impact of the incident, the authorities acted swiftly and efficiently, directly placing Xiao Qingming and Lin Feng in prison to await sentencing, and I didn't have to go through the divorce cooling-off period. I divorced Xiao Qingming directly. For this, I also received half of Xiao Qingming's family property, and at that moment, all the pure love warriors online fell silent. Instead, some strange comments made me laugh. 21 netizen said, "Actually, there's nothing wrong with marrying someone of the same sex. That way, you live your life, and I live mine. How convenient. Anyway, I'm not interested in that kind of thing in bed." Her comment has thousands of likes, and I really can't help but laugh. Can such naive remarks really come from a normal person? I shake my head, ignoring the agreements and rebuttals from netizens below, and simply turn off my phone, refusing to look any further. My new life has just begun. I want to enjoy it to the fullest, work hard to make money, and let the little darlings in prison take good care of those two rabbits. Oh, and there's the video from Uncle Wang's house, posting it on some websites. Uncle Wang is bound to have a different kind of life in his later years. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My husband is disabled. 10 years ago, he lost a calf while saving me. I feel guilty towards him and have been taking care of him day in and day out for 10 years. To add some excitement to our stagnant marriage, I secretly bought many clothes in various styles, yet he always seemed disinterested, with an unshakable distance hidden in his eyes, until that day, when I was helping him clean his old prosthetic limb. I felt a hard, uncomfortable object at the connection point. It was a miniature camera. The videos inside featured him and my best friend. I didn't cry, didn't make a fuss, just quietly ordered an identical prosthetic limb, except that I made special modifications to its interior. Chapter 1. Every morning at 6 o'clock, my biological clock rings on time. The first thing I did was head into the kitchen to prepare breakfast for Lu Zhe. He loves soft-boiled egg noodle soup, a taste that hasn't changed in 10 years. The noodles have to be cooked to just the right tenderness, and the timing for poaching. The egg has to be precise to the second. A moment too long and it's overcooked, a moment too short and it's underdone. Just as I walked into the bedroom with the bowl, Lu Zhe opened his eyes. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting dappled shadows across his sharply defined face. That face remained handsome, yet it always seemed veiled in a layer of ice. Awake, I set the bowl on the nightstand, my voice soft and gentle. He grunted in acknowledgement, pushing himself up with his arms. The blanket slipped off, revealing the empty pant leg, like a hideous scar, lying between us, also like a heavy shackle that has bound me for a full 10 years. Which pants would you like to wear today? I opened the wardrobe, which was filled with custom-made suit pants, each one cleverly concealing his flaw. Whatever. His voice carried its usual impatience. I was long accustomed to it. I picked a dark gray one, crouched down, and carefully helped him put it on. Then came the cold prosthetic limb, the click sound of the buckle snapping into place, the most familiar background noise of my 10-year marriage. I adjusted the tightness repeatedly, ensuring every part fit perfectly. All set, he stood up, took 2 steps, his gait as steady as that of an ordinary person apart from him and me. No one knew that this inspirational elite in the eyes of outsiders was actually missing a calf. He turned around, looking down at me still crouched on the ground, and spoke calmly, "Cece is coming over today." My heart felt as if it had been lightly pricked by a needle. Wang Cece, my best friend, is also the only person in this household who can bring a smile to Lu Zhe's face. Chapter 2. Wang Cece arrived at my door promptly at 3 in the afternoon. She was carrying the latest designer handbag, wearing a dress I couldn't afford, and her smile was dazzlingly bright. "Yaya, look what I brought for you." She handed me an exquisite gift box like a treasure. It was the perfume I had mentioned several times. "You're spending money recklessly again," I scolded with my words, but a flicker of warmth passed through my heart. In this oppressive home, she was the only bright spot. "What's this? You've worked yourself to the bone for this family. It's only right that you treat yourself well," she said, glancing meaningfully at Lu Zhe, who was watching financial news on the sofa. Lu Zhe put down the newspaper, a rare smile curling at the corner of his mouth. "Here I am." "Yes, brother Lu Zhe, I was worried that Yaya would be too tired taking care of you alone, so I came to lend a hand." Wang Cece naturally sat down beside him, picked a grape from the fruit plate, peeled it, and handed it to his mouth. Lu Zhe opened his mouth to eat, his affectionate gesture making me feel a bit dazed, but I quickly suppressed that discomfort. Cece has always been a warm-hearted person, and she genuinely cares for me. During dinner, Wang Cece shared amusing stories from the company, making Lu Zhe laugh continuously. Sitting beside them, watching them chat and laugh, I suddenly felt like an unnecessary outsider. After the meal, Wang Cece offered to massage Lu Zhe's legs, saying it could relieve muscle fatigue at the junction between the residual limb and the prosthetic. "This is something I do every night." "No need, I can do it myself," I spoke up to stop her. "Oh, Yaya, you've been busy all day, go and rest." Wang Cece pushed me onto the sofa without a word, then walked straight over to Lu Zhe and crouched down beside him. With skilled hands, she began massaging him, looking up at Lu Zhe with a smile. "Brother Lu Zhe, my technique is better than Yaya's, right?" Lu Zhe opened his eyes, his gaze dark and profound as it swept over her before settling back on me. There was a hint of amusement in his eyes that I couldn't quite decipher, and his thin lips parted slightly as he spoke. "She doesn't understand as much as you do." My heart felt as if it were being squeezed by an invisible hand, leaving me breathless in an instant. Chapter 3. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Lu Zhe's words were like a thorn, piercing deeply into my heart. I gazed at his sleeping profile, and the scene from the car accident 10 years ago uncontrollably flooded my mind. The sharp screech of brakes, the blinding headlights, the deafening sound of metal twisting, and the muffled groan he let out as he shielded me beneath him. He saved me, trading a leg for my life. This debt of gratitude, this guilt, is enough to make me endure all his indifference and criticism. I turned over and told myself not to overthink things. Perhaps the marriage had become too dull, and I needed to do something to break the stagnant routine. The next day, as if guided by some unseen force, I walked into a clothing store. Under the clerk's surprised gaze, I blushed and bought a bold outfit and a small prop. That night, after Lu Zhe finished his shower, I mustered my courage, changed into the outfit, and walked up to him holding a stethoscope, my heart pounding as if it were about to leap out of my chest. "Mr. Lu, would you like a physical examination?" I imitated the tone from the video, my voice soft and coquettish. Lu Zhe looked at me expressionlessly, his gaze sliding from my face down to my body, finally settling on my exposed legs. There wasn't a hint of desire in his eyes, only a cold scrutiny, as if he were looking at a clown. "Jiangyu," he spoke, his voice as cold as ice in the depths of winter, "don't you think you're being ridiculous?" My smile froze on my face. "Change your clothes, don't embarrass yourself here." He threw out those words, then turned over and lay down, his back to me. I stood where I was, feeling as if all the blood in my body had frozen in an instant. Shame, embarrassment, and a sharp, piercing pain spread from my heart to every limb. Looking at my disheveled self in the mirror, I could no longer hold back the tears that finally fell. Chapter 4. I hid in the bathroom and cried for a long time. After crying my heart out, I just wanted to throw away all those eyesores. When I returned to the bedroom, Lu Zhe was already fast asleep. His prosthetic leg stood on the bedside stand as usual. It is a part of his body and the source of my guilt. Maintaining the prosthetic limb is a daily necessity for me. I pick up the specialized cleaner and a soft cloth, kneel on the carpet, and carefully wipe every corner, the metal interface, the leather straps. I can trace every texture with my eyes closed, when wiping the groove where the residual limb Connects, my fingertips suddenly touched a tiny protrusion. This prosthetic limb was a top-of-the-line custom-made product from Germany, with exquisite craftsmanship and should have no flaws. My heart skipped a beat, and I leaned in closer under the desk lamp to take a closer look. It wasn't a flaw, it was an extremely well-hidden seam. I found a thin needle and carefully pried along the seam. With a soft click, a black square the size of a fingernail popped out. It was a memory card. Next to it was a hole smaller than the tip of a needle, unmistakably the lens of a camera. My mind went blank, blood rushed to my head, my hands and feet turned ice cold and trembled, and my heart pounded so violently it felt like it would burst through my throat. Why was there a camera hidden in his prosthetic limb? My hands trembling, I picked up the memory card and rushed into the study to plug it into the computer. A folder popped up on the screen, its name glaring, My Paradise. Inside were densely packed video files, arranged by date, with the most recent one from yesterday. My hand hovered over the mouse, shaking violently, as a terrible premonition tightened around my throat. Take a few deep breaths, and I still opened that file. The familiar bedroom, the familiar bed, the perspective is very low, exactly captured from the position of the prosthetic camera. The screen shook for a moment, and a figure walked in. It was Wang Cici. What she was wearing was exactly the set of clothes I had just bought yesterday. She posed coquettishly in front of the camera, her voice dripping with seduction. Ah Zay, look at me wearing this, isn't it much prettier than that wooden beauty Jiang Yu? She bent down to pick up the prop from the ground, her face full of mockery and pride. That fool Jiang Yu still thinks buying these things can win back your heart. How could she know that the things she carefully picked out would end up being played with by me? I stared at the screen, feeling as if my soul had been drained away. Scrolling further, there were even more videos. Some were on our marital bed, some on the living room sofa, and even some in the kitchen I had personally decorated. They were in my home, using the things I had bought, acting out one disgraceful scene after another. The time span, a full 3 years, my 10-year marriage, 10 years of giving, 10 years of guilt. It turns out it was all a joke from start to finish. I didn't cry, not a single tear could fall. I just calmly copied all the videos to an encrypted hard drive, then opened the browser and typed a line of text, high-intensity chemical sensitization coding. On the screen, the words, contact triggers severe allergic inflammation, and risk of skin ulceration, were particularly eye-catching. After closing the web page, I opened a website for custom props and typed a line in the contact information field. Hello, I would like to customize a prosthetic limb, with the appearance and details replicated. 1. Chapter 5. The next morning, I still woke up promptly at 6 o'clock. The taste of the noodle soup, the doneness of the soft-boiled egg, nothing was different from the past 3,000 mornings. While Lu Zhe was eating the noodles, I sat across from him, quietly watching his handsome face, watching his chewing movements, watching his Adam's apple bob. He noticed my gaze, looked up and frowned. What are you looking at? Nothing. I smiled at him, a flawless smile that left no room for criticism. You look especially beautiful today. He didn't notice anything unusual and lowered his head to continue eating his noodles. After breakfast, as usual, I knelt down to help him put on his prosthetic limb. My fingertips brushed over the empty camera card slot, and I slipped that memory card into my inner pocket. There, it holds my past hopes and my present despair. Lu Zhe picked up his briefcase, ready to head out. As the company's financial director, he was seen by outsiders as a young and talented professional. As he reached the door, he suddenly turned back. Don't wait for me for dinner tonight, I have a business engagement at the company. Yes, I nodded with a smile. The moment the door closed, the smile on my face faded inch by inch. Picking up my phone, I dialed Wang Cici's number. The call was answered quickly, her voice tinged with delight. Yeah, so early, Cici. I tried on that dress last night. My voice carried just the right amount of grievance and frustration. He scolded me, saying I was making a fool of myself, and told me to stop making a fuss. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line, followed by Wang Cici's insincere consolation. Don't be sad, yeah, men are all like that. Maybe he's just not used to it. Don't take it to heart. I responded softly. Shall I come over to keep you company tonight? We can complain about men together. I happen to be free today. I could almost picture her smug expression on the other end. Great, I said. After hanging up the phone, I walked into the bedroom, took out the crumpled clothes, folded them neatly, and placed them in a bag along with the unused props. When Wang Cici came over in the evening, I handed her the bag. Please help me get rid of these things, they're bothering me. She opened it and glanced inside, a flicker of greed flashing in her eyes. all right, leave it to me. She had no idea that these trophies in her eyes would soon become evidence exposing their disgraceful behavior. Chapter 6. It took me 3 days to get in touch with a craftsman who specializes in custom props. We arranged to meet at an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. The man wore a mask and a baseball cap, his voice raspy like sandpaper. Did you bring the item? I pushed a box over to him. Inside were Lu Zhe's spare prosthetic limbs, which I had gone through great trouble to dig out from the storage room. I need an exact replica. Material, weight, luster, even every single scratch. Nothing can be off. He opened the box, picked up the prosthetic limb, and examined it for a moment. It can be done, but what you want is more than just that, isn't it? I took out a design blueprint from my bag. I want it to be hollow inside, with a double-layered structure. The inner layer should be made of ultra-thin, high-strength tempered glass as a sealed interlayer. Filled with this, I handed him a note that read, high-intensity chemical sensitization coating stock solution. He looked at the note and fell silent. In the factory, only the wind howled through the broken windows. After a long while, he raised his head, his gaze sharpening. What do you want to do? You don't need to know. My voice was steady. Just tell me if it can be done, and how much. He fell silent again, his eyes hidden in the shadows as if trying to see right through me. I can't take this job. My heart sank. It's too dangerous, he added. This thing isn't a toy. Once the inner glass layer breaks under pressure and the original solution leaks, any skin it touches will instantly ulcerate, with unimaginable consequences. And you're planning to use it against someone, aren't you? I didn't answer. He chuckled softly, took off his hat, revealing a face covered in burned scars. I don't want to go back in there. What were you in for? I suddenly spoke up. He paused for a moment, then laughed self-deprecatingly. Betrayed by someone, I took the fall for my brother, and he promised to take care of my family, but when I got out, my wife had run off with someone else. And my daughter was bullied so badly at school that she dropped out and jumped off a building. My heart clenched. I understand. I opened my phone and showed him a video. There was no sound, only Wang Cece wearing my clothes, laughing and rolling around on my wedding bed, her face full of mockery. The scar on his face twitched. Is this your husband, and your best friend? Yes. He watched the video to the end and remained silent for a long time. Finally, he took the drawings and the note back. Material cost, labor cost, sealing fee, a flat rate of 500,000. This amount was almost all of my savings, including the money from selling the diamond necklace my mother left me. Deal. I didn't hesitate for a moment. 1 week later, same place. He closed the box. Once I hand this over to you, we're even. Whatever happens from now on has nothing to do with me. Yes. Stepping out of the factory, the sunlight stung my eyes. Looking at the zero balance in my mobile banking app, I felt no ripple of emotion. This money was the prepaid ticket for this reckoning. Chapter 7. The week of waiting stretched on, feeling as long as a century. I am like the most perfect actress, playing the role of a gentle and considerate wife. Lu Zhe is very satisfied with my recent obedience and occasionally gives me a kind look. Wang Cece often visits, and we share our thoughts like the best of friends. She brags about her new handsome boyfriend, while I talk about wanting to have a child with Lu Zhe. Every time I say this, the jealousy and resentment in her eyes almost spill over, but I pretend not to see it. Even holding her hand, I asked with a sincere expression, Cece, tell me, what should I do to make Luz love me a little more? She comforted me perfunctorily, with a venomous smile hidden in her eyes. No one knew that beneath my calm exterior, my heart had already burned to ashes. I started going through Lu Zhe's old belongings, wanting to know exactly when he had become so unrecognizable. In a locked drawer in his study, I found an old diary and managed to pick the lock with a hairpin. The first page of the diary was dated 10 years ago, the very day of our car accident. I've had enough. Jiang Yu is like the moon in the sky. No matter how hard I chase, I can never catch up. She is kind to me, but it's not love, it's politeness, it's pity. I don't want any of that. I must have her, completely and entirely, even if it means using extreme measures. I saw the news, a truck with failed brakes, a driver fatigued at the wheel. I knew my chance had come. I studied every blind spot along that road, timed every traffic light. I even sabotaged our car's airbags in advance. Everything had to be perfect. I wanted her to survive, unscathed, and I would use a hero saves the beauty act of self-sacrifice to bind her to me with a lifetime of guilt and obligation. My leg is broken, and it hurts, but when I saw her holding me and crying, I knew I had won. The diary slipped from my hand and fell to the ground with a dull thud. So that's how it is. It turns out that the redemption that had filled me with guilt for 10 years was, from start to finish, a trap he had meticulously planned. He was not my hero, he was the gravedigger of my life. I picked up the diary and tore it page by page into shreds. The last remaining warmth in my heart vanished completely. Chapter 8. A week later, I got that new toy. It was exactly the same as Lu Zhe's spare prosthetic limb, identical in weight, shine, and scratches, down to the last detail. Only I know that beneath this cold, hard shell lies a punishment, severe enough to make them pay the price. I carefully hid it deep in the closet and began planning my business trip. I forged a company-issued red-letter document for a week-long training session in a neighboring city. I carelessly left the document on the dining table. Lu Zhe indeed saw it, a flicker of unconcealable delight in his eyes. Are you going on a business trip? Yes, it's arranged by the company, can't get out of it. I feigned a sigh of distress. I'm a bit worried about you being home alone. What's there to worry about? I'm not a 3-year-old child. He said it lightly, but his gaze remained fixed on the documents. It's actually good timing. I've been busy lately, so it's nice for you to go out and relax. He even, thoughtfully, checked the local weather for me. That evening, I naturally called Wang Cece. Cece, I'll be away on a business trip for a week. Could you occasionally check on Lu Zhe? I'm worried he might have trouble managing on his own. Of course, no problem, leave it to me. She agreed faster than anyone else. I could almost see the smug look she and Lu Zhe exchanged over the phone. Everything was going according to my script. Chapter 9. On the night before departure, I made my final move, take that special prosthetic limb out from the depths of the closet and place it in the most prominent spot on the nightstand, with a card beside it written in cursive, "Honey, here's a new toy for you. I'll check on it when I get back. Have fun." I stood in front of the mirror, practicing that seductive "oh" over and over until the tone was perfect. Then, I installed the final camera in the smoke detector directly facing the bed in the bedroom. HD, wide angle, with audio recording capability. It will faithfully record everything that happens next. Early the next morning, I pulled my suitcase and shared a lingering goodbye kiss with Lu Zhe. "Honey, I'll miss you." I gazed into his eyes, full of affection. Be careful on the road." He gave me a perfunctory hug, but his eyes had already drifted toward the box on the bedside table. Closing the door, I dragged my suitcase without looking back. Instead of going to the airport, I took a taxi directly to a hotel in the suburbs that I had booked in advance. Once inside the room, the first thing I did was open my laptop and connect to the bedroom camera. The video was clear, and the audio quality was good. I looked at the empty bedroom, ordered some takeout, and waited quietly, waiting for the protagonist to appear, waiting for the grand play to begin. Less than an hour after I left home, the bedroom door was pushed open. Wang Cece, wearing a sexy slip dress, threw herself into Lu Zhe's arms like a colorful butterfly. I was so anxious. "She's finally gone." Lu Zhe held her tightly, lowering his head to fiercely capture her lips with a kiss. They were laughing and playing on my bed, pulling at each other's clothes, their foul language unbearable to hear. "That foolish woman really thinks you broke your leg to save her." Wang Cece lay on top of Lu Zhe, laughing so hard she trembled. "Otherwise, how could I make her willingly be my free nanny for 10 years? Lu Zhe's voice was full of pride. "You're still the best, Ace. Once we get all her assets, you can't let her touch you anymore. I find it disgusting." "Don't worry, I haven't wanted to touch her for a long time. Every time I see her guilty face, I feel so sick I want to vomit." I stared at the screen expressionlessly, my heart already numb and devoid of any feeling. Just raised a hand and pressed the record button. Chapter 10. They soon discovered the box on the bedside table. "Huh, what's this?" Wang Cece curiously picked it up and, upon seeing the card, exclaimed exaggeratedly, "Oh, our Yaya has finally come around." Lu Zhe also became interested. He opened the box, saw the prosthetic inside, and weighed it in his hand. "The quality of this is even better than my old one. She really put thought into it. Of course, your wife has been taking care of you with all her heart." Wang Cece's tone was sour, filled with jealousy. She clung to Lu Zhe's arm, coquettishly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Ah Zhe, let's try this new one. Your wife told you to have fun, but she didn't say you could only have fun by yourself." Lu Zhe was teased until his breathing became rapid. He threw away the old prosthetic limb and began to put on the new toy I had prepared. The buckle snapped into place perfectly, with the size fitting exactly. He stood up, took 2 steps, and nodded in satisfaction. "Exactly." Then, he picked up Wang Sisi and threw her heavily onto the wedding bed. A crazy farce has officially begun. Wang Sisi's laughter and Lu Zhe's panting came clearly through my headphones. I zoomed in on the screen, staring intently at the prosthetic limb, my fingers hovering over the mouse, adjusting the camera angle to ensure the clearest possible shot. Time passed second by second, and my heart was utterly still. I am like a cold-hearted director, waiting for the climax of the entire play. Finally, a faint cracking sound came through the headphones, like sand falling on glass. Here it comes. On the screen, the movements of the two instantly froze. What sound? Wang Sisi asked in confusion. Lu Zhe frowned and looked down at his leg. The prosthetic shell appeared intact. It's fine, keep going. However, the next second, a transparent liquid seeped out from the seam of the prosthetic limb, dropping onto the bedsheet. It instantly emitted a wisp of light smoke, corroding a small hole. Wang Sisi's eyes suddenly widened. What is this? A heart-wrenching scream pierced the tranquility of the bedroom. It was Lu Zhe's voice. The area where his residual limb connected to the prosthetic was visibly turning red, developing a rash, and then festering and oozing pus. He frantically tried to tear off the prosthetic, but the clasp was locked tight. The moment his fingers touched the oozing fluid, a cluster of blisters immediately formed, causing him to convulse in pain. Wang Sisi was terrified out of her wits and tried to climb off the bed, but Lu Zhe firmly grabbed her leg. A few drops of liquid splashed onto her thigh, and an excruciating pain instantly overwhelmed her. Ah! A second scream rang out, even more piercing and agonizing than Lu Zhe's. The bedroom was in chaos, the two of them like dying, trapped beasts, writhing and struggling in agony. Wherever the sensitizing liquid touched, red swelling and festering sores erupted. I watched the screen quietly until they had completely lost their strength, lying motionless on the bed. Before pressing the stop recording button, turning off the computer and unplugging the power, I walked into the bathroom and turned on the shower. Hot water cascaded over my body, yet I couldn't feel a trace of warmth. I washed for a long time, until my skin turned red, then changed into my pajamas and collapsed onto the soft hotel bed. Half an hour later, I picked up another phone and dialed my own number. The phone rang, and I answered, using a voice altered by a modulator, feigning a panicked tone. Hello, is this Ms. Jiang Yu? I'm your neighbor. Something seems to have happened at your house. I just heard several screams. I let out a perfectly timed scream into the phone. What? After hanging up, I scrambled out of the hotel room and rushed toward home. Chapter 11. When I rushed home, many neighbors had already gathered at the door, and the police and ambulance had arrived. I pushed through the crowd and rushed inside, shouting, Lu Zhe, Lu Zhe. When I saw the scene in the bedroom, my legs gave way, and I collapsed to the ground, my face deathly pale. The police quickly supported me. Ma'am, please calm down. I looked at the marital bed I had slept in for 10 years. On it lay two people, their bodies covered in red, swollen, and festering sores, their consciousness blurred, and their bodies covered with the white sheets of medical staff. The air was filled with the pungent smell of chemical reagents mixed with disinfectant. I covered my mouth, letting out a heart-wrenching, dry heave. My performance was nothing short of perfect. Everyone present cast sympathetic glances my way. A poor woman, returning from a business trip, found her husband and her best friend lying on her marital bed in such a tragic and humiliating manner. There is no story more tragic than this. Chapter 12. The subsequent investigation was simpler than anyone could have imagined. All evidence at the scene points to one conclusion: a pair of adulterous lovers suffered an accident due to the use of unauthorized props. The internal structure of the customized prosthetic ruptured, causing an unknown chemical sensitizing liquid to leak, resulting in severe skin ulceration and anaphylactic shock in both individuals. As for the origin of the prosthetic, it remains an unsolved mystery. The German custom company I provided does not exist at all, and that ambiguous card became the best evidence of their excessive playfulness. Jiang Yu, am the most innocent and pitiful victim in this accident. Although Lu Zhe and Wang Sisi survived, they were left with lifelong sequelae of skin ulcers and mobility impairments. After the truth of Lu Zhe's self-inflicted injury scheme and the scandal of his marital infidelity were exposed, he was fired by the company and saddled with huge medical debts. Wang Sisi's parents, upon learning the truth, were so furious that they severed ties with her. I filed for divorce in court, and with the video footage from the camera and fragments of Lu Zhe's diary, the court ruled that Lu Zhe was at significant fault. Not only did I successfully dissolve the marriage, but I also legally received all the joint marital property, including the apartment and sports car he secretly bought for Wang Sisi. After everything was settled, I returned to this once familiar home. I hired a professional cleaning company to throw out everything in the master bedroom, including that bed. The walls were repainted, and the floors were completely replaced. Here, there was no longer a single trace of them. I sat in the empty living room, opened the encrypted hard drive, and clicked on the final video. From the moment they entered the door to their painful curling up, every frame was clearly visible. After watching, I selected all the files, pressed the delete key, and then performed a thorough shredding. All the evidence has vanished. No one in this world will ever know what truly happened that afternoon. Only I know. Sunlight streams in through the window, bathing me in its warm, gentle glow. I closed my eyes and let out a long, deep breath. After 10 years of shackles, I finally broke them with my own hands. I am free. After hearing the two stories above,